Looking through the Google search trends of Fortnite reveals a fascinating history of ups and downs that some people might not expect. Over the last year or so, the interest for Fortnite has never dipped below 29, which seems like a low number when you consider Fortnite's peak relevancy hitting 100, which is the highest the interest can possibly be on Google Trends. For the last 12 months, it's pretty consistently in the 45 to 60 range, which is very good considering the amount of players daily Fortnite has. With the spikes in relevancy usually being around the time of events, a new skin, or a highly anticipated season of some sort. Usually some collab that grabs people's interest. Overall, Fortnite has a really solid, consistent player base for the most popular video game on planet Earth, to no one's surprise, obviously. It wasn't always this way, though. If you look at the trends over the past few years, you'll eventually find a staggering all-time low of 1 from March 6th to the 12th of 2022, before going up to 33 on March 20th that same year. That number is a new peak for the time period that is still lower than the lowest point of interest in the past year. These ups and downs showcase how even the biggest giants in the industry can still mess up after hitting the highest of highs people thought were even possible. But don't mistake it. Even at the low point of 1 on search trends, Fortnite still had an all-time high of 500 million registered players. Look, despite the narrative that the internet loved to spin, the hard truth is that Fortnite never truly fell off. The rise and fall of Fortnite might as well have been its own genre on YouTube, but it was still hitting new heights. With this in mind, I propose a question. People always talk about how Fortnite fell off and came back, but now that we know that's not the case, I ask, what would have to happen for Fortnite to truly fall off? To be clear, I'm not expecting Fortnite to fall off anytime soon, nor would I want it to. Chapter 6 is off to a pretty good start, and this season has fixed a lot of issues I had with previous Chapter 5 seasons. See, I'm not thinking a year or two from now. I'm simply asking, is it possible for Fortnite to fall off 10, maybe 15 years from now? I'm not saying it's impossible, but Fortnite's continued popularity has proved that Epic Games knows how to keep a game relevant for the long haul. Despite them doing a good job in a lot of aspects, questionable decisions both recently and in the past could potentially indicate Fortnite's actual downfall. To get an understanding of what could cause Fortnite's failure, I'd like to give my criticisms of Fortnite currently to point out the issues that may cause some dissatisfaction amongst the player base in the future. Obviously, Fortnite's never been a perfect game, even during its peaks. It's always had its issues, but Epic has clearly done enough right if the game continues to make them more money, which it has. Chapter 6, at the very least, shows that they do listen to the players' criticisms, even if they don't always get it right. The reason why the Fortnite has fallen off narrative began in the first place isn't even based on any real data about interest or player numbers, but rather the dissatisfaction from players after the honeymoon phase of early Fortnite, aka before Chapter 2. At this point, Fortnite was starting to change pretty drastically, and for a lot of people, Fortnite just became unrecognizable. A lot of the qualities that made people enjoy Fortnite initially were gone or turned into something entirely different. Fortnite was no longer a battle royale game based around building and gunplay. Now they began introducing lots of other mechanics that were more about casual fun and chaos. Clearly, they did this to appeal to the more casual gamers that the game had begun to attract due to its rising popularity. One of the biggest complaints that lots of people had with early Fortnite was that there was a big learning curve with building that turned them off the game since the building mechanics intimidated lots of people from playing. That's why they eventually introduced zero build mode later on, but I'm sure we all know that by now. Regardless, this caused a lot of people who enjoyed Fortnite for its simplicity to no longer enjoy the game the way they used to, which began the Fortnite has fallen off narrative. But in reality, the core fanbase of the game was just starting to change. Now the game wasn't only appealing to gamers already familiar with shooters, but casual gamers and even people who don't play video games very often. The inclusion of lots of collabs also reinforced this idea, since now skins that weren't possible before were beginning to appear in the game regularly. Most people wouldn't have believed you back in the early seasons of Chapter 1 if you told them that Spider-Man would be one of the main characters of a future battle pass, much less Darth Vader or Superman. With the game's rising popularity, the opportunities for collabs and making money began presenting themselves. Surely, no one expected Fortnite to be what it is now, but we spent the last few years sort of sitting back and enjoying the show as they've continued to push what's possible in a video game. Fortnite, if nothing else, truly is a pipe dream of a video game when you really sit and think about it. Not everyone likes that though. When something niche suddenly becomes very popular, the perception of that thing will change drastically on the internet. Whether it's a good or bad thing kind of depends on how the people working on that project handle it. At the end of the day, Some people are going to prefer their niche video game over what Fortnite is today. That's just inevitable. Despite Fortnite pushing boundaries in the video game industry for years now, they've also set standards that, for better or for worse, have strongly changed the gaming landscape as we know it. It's only natural that other developers would follow in the footsteps of something as successful as Fortnite. The downside is, now the gaming industry and Fortnite have begun developing new ways to squeeze as much money as possible out of the audience. Very occasionally, Epic will sneak in some fucking nonsense to see what they can get away with in terms of bullshitting us. One of the best examples of this are the Kicks cosmetic item that was added during the Chapter 2 remix season. The obvious thing to say about this is that nobody asked for these to exist, which is true, and it's not really problematic since it's just a cosmetic item that doesn't affect gameplay. What the shoes are indicative of is the priorities of the company, Epic Games. It's no secret that Fortnite continues to gain a lot of momentum from collabs, and when something gets this popular, it's only inevitable lots of companies would see the opportunity in marketing to an audience so massive. We don't know all the details of their contracts, but we do know these companies like Lego or Nike have a stake in the sales of their collab items. It's most likely that they're setting the rates of these items to ensure they can actually make money off them, which leads to how cosmetics have taken over Fortnite in general. Not only have items slowly become more expensive, but the amount of items we can buy has also increased by double the amount than when Fortnite was new. I'm sure Epic didn't imagine a pair of Jordans costing $10 in their item shop, but having Nike products in their game will keep consumer interest alive, so it's in their best interest to allow this to happen. And since these are cosmetics, there's no harm in turning anything and everything into buyable items. By the way, I don't actually mind the inclusion of things like jam tracks or shoes. In fact, I think they're fun ways of customizing your character and spicing up the gameplay a little. But when it costs $30 to buy every pair of Nike in the shop, when you could instead buy a skin, emo, a pickaxe, or a backbling for that same price, it becomes a lot less justifiable. That's not even mentioning the change in business practices within the item shop prioritizing bundles to make more money too. When they add a skin to the item shop nowadays, they usually separate an item that's supposed to match that skin, like a pickaxe or backbling, separate from the skin itself. So if you wanted both, you'd have to buy them separately. Or you could spend a little more and get everything that matches that skin, even if it includes items you might not care about as much. Since it will always cost less to buy a bundle that includes all of the matching items for a skin, instead of buying everything separately, we just end up forking over that extra cash anyways. From a business standpoint, they've done an amazing job of monetizing the game as much as possible without upsetting people too much. At a certain point, everyone just kind of accepted that Fortnite fully sold out, and it's sort of become one of the biggest appeals of it. Anything is possible in Fortnite now, and that's very exciting. I bring all this up to say this is indicative of Epic Games prioritizing making money over other things. It's not a surprise to me that a game company's main goal is to make money, but when I see a $10 pair of new Nike in my face every week when the game faces other problems, it feels insulting at times. It's no secret that every new season comes with its own set of bugs and glitches on top of already existing issues. You'd think a company this massive with this many resources would put a little more effort into fixing issues that actually affect gameplay. For example, the new ballistic mode only being playable in ranked for a little while, the ready up button missing for seemingly no reason at the beginning of Chapter 6, amongst other things like visual bugs, audio bugs, like hearing gunfire when there's no fights happening, or other issues like not being able to interact with loot or accidentally being under the map somehow. Some of the things I just mentioned got fixed, which is good, but issues like this pop up all the time, and sometimes we don't get a fix for them for a really long time. We shouldn't be satisfied with half-baked content just because they do a good job in other areas. The ballistic mode, despite being decent for what it is, was very obviously rushed to hit a deadline. It's pretty clear they tried to recreate the launch of Chapter 5 with Lego, Rocket Racing, Reload, and Festival, and Fall Guys all being added and shaking up the game in a new fun way, which was very successful for them as seen by the jump in players and interest in Fortnite after Chapter 5 launched. Ballistic and Fortnite OG with the new chapter launch simply doesn't have the same impact Chapter 5 did, and it's mostly because these new additions are half-baked attempts of capturing old magic. I don't know if Fortnite will ever have a new chapter that's as impactful as Chapter 5 was, nor do I think they should strive to do so. In the long run, taking the time to make new additions worthwhile and functional will pay off much more. Getting lots of new things at once is only exciting on the surface because in the end, the audience knows when something is actually worth their time, and that interest will always be reflected in the player counts for any mode you see in Fortnite. One of the biggest determining factors of Fortnite's future success is how lazy they may or may not be in the future. Now, being lazy with a new update here and there has clearly shown not to affect the game's popularity at all. I'm talking about more so how far they will go in being as lazy as possible in the future. If they ever get complacent in the future and put less effort into content, that would be pretty detrimental for them. If any companies see a game as big as Fortnite potentially going downhill, many developers will line up to try and take their place immediately. Precisely what is happening right now with Marvel Rivals and Overwatch. If the content in the future is lacking, no matter how much people like the game, they will find something else to play instead. It's that simple. On the opposite side of the coin, if they continue to put their foot on the gas, then it's very possible this growth will continue up to a certain point. Like I've mentioned earlier, Fortnite has only seen more and more success as time has passed on, but that can only continue for so long. That's why I'm not asking if Fortnite's growth will continue, because it will stop eventually. Probably not anytime soon, but maybe in the next 5 or 10 years like I said earlier. There's only so many people on the planet that can enjoy one game at the end of the day. For every person that plays and enjoys Fortnite, there's also plenty that simply have no interest or even hate the game for being too popular. Here's my opinion. There's 2 ways this can go. Number 1, Fortnite slowly succumbs to greed and allows complacency to kill the interest of the game over time. I have no doubt in my mind that no matter how much the game falls off, it'll still have its dedicated fans that'll support Fortnite no matter what happens. Some people's emotional attachment to Fortnite is too high for them to ever drop it. With the long history it's had, it's inevitable people will continue to play even if it ends up a former shell of what it used to be. That group of people may still be a pretty big number, but it's impossible for it to continue peaking in numbers forever. Or number 2, they continue to find new ways to keep the game fresh for many years beyond this point, and the game will continue to flourish. I think a fall off is inevitable, but it doesn't have to be super drastic. Even if it reaches a point where kids grow up and stop playing video games, I'm still pretty confident that Fortnite's mass appeal will find its way into a new generation on top of the adults that already play. Again, it may not hold on to whatever its peak may be, but I think in this second timeline, they may maintain a much higher interest in average player base. I think both realities are possible. I suppose there is a potential much more rare third timeline where Fortnite somehow continues to keep growing and peaking in success, but I think the likelihood of that is much smaller than what I said earlier. The best way for them to avoid failure at this point is what a lot of online games fail to do. Actually listen to their audience. There was once a point in time where Call of Duty was the most popular game every year, despite the gameplay being relatively the same every year. But their business plan eventually crumbled onto itself over time because they ran out of steam and didn't find new ways to innovate the game and keep it fresh. Call of Duty is the perfect example of complacency with success, and it's barely recognizable anymore, doing anything and everything to squeeze money out of players. With games outselling Call of Duty every year nowadays, it's pretty clear the gaming industry is moving in a different direction. The people just want good video games now. Gamers can smell bullshit much easier now and know when companies are being lazy for a profit. It's not less obvious than it used to be, but now they've caught on and recognize what they do to cut corners in order to make more money. Fortnite's a rare exception since they put just enough effort into their actual content to hold people's attention. To be clear, I hope Fortnite stays relevant for a long time. I've been playing almost since the beginning, and I hope they continue to lead the pack, preferably with less stingy business practices. I'm not saying I expect the company to stop doing what makes them money, but I digress. It'd also be unfortunate because a lot of people's career rely on Fortnite now, and Fortnite itself is almost an industry at this point. If Fortnite can continue to be an outlet for people to make money and express themselves while continuing to push boundaries in the video game industry, that's a win for everybody.
Besides, Fortnite can't die until I get my own skin in the game.